Meanwhile, Jenna felt that everything before her eyes was illogical. We'll discuss these issues later. Right now, the most important thing is how we should survive here. Before the mission started, the man signaled everyone to head to the city to gather sufficient information. The scene shifts, and the man is standing inside a bell tower, overlooking the entire city. It seems that the morale of the city's soldiers has completely collapsed. Outside the city, thousands of goblins are surging towards the city. In contrast, the city soldiers standing outside the city represent the only remaining military force of the city, yet their numbers are less than 1/10 of the goblins. Although the situation appears desperate, if this is a survival mission, the man's chances of survival would significantly increase because there are enough NPCs to serve as bait, not to mention a very powerful mage. Moments later, Adis's team meets up with the man and others. Just as the man was about to ask Adis about the specifics of the mission, suddenly an alarm sounds, startling the man because it is a high-level triple warning alert. Then comes the mission prompt, Floor 10, stop the city from falling. It turns out to be a defense mission. You see, the two teams together with 350 NPC Earth soldiers, totaling only 360 troops, have to stop thousands of goblins, which seems harder than climbing to heaven. It looks like everyone is here. Let's summarize the information and establish a detailed combat strategy. We can interfere with their actions, but we cannot communicate with them. Following this, Aaron also shares the information he has learned with everyone. Currently, the refugees are concentrated in the middle of the city, with a large number of goblins closing in from the north and east, while no escape routes have been found in the south and west. Adis asks the man if he knows the mission information. The man responds, this mission is about defense. We need to protect the city from the invasion of the goblins, which means we need to eliminate all the enemies. I wonder if we could use the empty fort strategy and then strike from behind the enemy, but the man immediately rejected the idea. I suspect that the condition for clearing the level is to eliminate all enemies. Have you noticed the statue in front of the bell tower? That statue is a common item in special missions. If that statue is destroyed, it would mean our failure to clear the level. This is really outrageous. If we fail this mission, we will all die here. Can't we even flee the city? The man answered, when the mission is deemed a failure, we will die on the spot no matter where we are. Although this condition seems very unreasonable, since this is a game, there must be a way to clear this mission. The number of goblins is large, and the situation is very severe, but only the Northern Legion has siege equipment. That means, as long as we can hold off the Northern Legion, we have a chance of survival. The man signaled Adis's team to defend the north, but she was puzzled. Based on the current information, no matter what actions we take, this mission seems impossible to complete. I understand your concerns. Even if both teams are together, we will eventually face a breakthrough situation. Logically, this is a battle we absolutely cannot win, but there must be a clue here. On the 7th floor, we learned about the dam collapse, and from the 5th to the 9th floor, all clues pointed to the dam. These pieces of information must have special significance, but what does a collapsed dam have to do with clearing the 10th floor? At that moment, Jenna suddenly remembered some important details. Now that you mention it, I once heard something there. I heard horses running on the other side of the river. The man was shocked. Such an important detail. Why are you only mentioning it now? The man organized a division of labor. Adis, no matter what, you all must hold the city gates until we return. Understood. We will do our best to hold on. Isn't this too hasty? Shouldn't we formulate some kind of battle plan? Adis is different from you. She understood quickly. Grab your weapons. We're heading east. There are thousands of goblins outside. Why should we go out? Indeed, but we still choose to go out. If we all stay here, we will definitely be annihilated. On the 7th floor, the dam had already collapsed. If the hoofbeats Jenna heard were from reinforcements, it means the reinforcements couldn't arrive in time due to the dam's collapse. That is, what we need to do is go to the eastern city gate, break through the goblin blockade, and prevent the dam on the river from further collapsing. Are we supposed to? Yes, we need to eliminate that group of goblins. Just now, the man decided to eliminate the group of goblins on the eastern side of the city. At the same time, a large number of refugees were rushing into the city, while the man and others ran towards the outside of the city. At this moment, the man signaled Jenna to climb the city wall to observe the situation outside. Aaron was preparing to open the city gate, and then he would have Iorka support them the moment the gate opened. While releasing the second stage of fire magic, Aaron was slowly opening the city gate. The Earth soldiers nearby were shocked because, in their eyes, the gate seemed to be turning by itself. At this time, Jenna reported the situation outside. A large number of goblins have gathered outside the city, and if the gate is open, these goblins will rush in all at once. Facing the vast horde of goblins outside the city, the man chose to open the city gates during this critical moment, even beating up the NPC soldiers who came to stop him. What is going on here? To prevent the soldiers from disrupting their plan, the man and Jenna beat up those soldiers who tried to stop them. Meanwhile, Ivalka was gathering magical power. Suddenly, an arrow shot towards them, but the man caught it on the spot. It seems the goblin army was about to flood into the city, with Jenna also helping to deal with those soldiers. A light rain began to fall, but this should not affect her magic. At that moment, Aaron forcefully opened the city gate, and countless goblins rushed towards Ivalka. Accompanied by a burst of flames, the goblins in front of them were all annihilated. Aaron and Jenna took the opportunity to run outside the city, while the man handed Ivalka a potion of mana. Remember to replenish your mana each time you use magic. Can you keep up with us? Of course. Who do you think I am? At this time, Shern was too scared to speak. Do you still plan to go out with us? Shern was in a state of fear. The man signaled him to go help Adis. If you can survive that battle, I will remember you. Meanwhile, the soldiers inside the city were slowly closing the city gate. It seems that the only way now is to move forward. Under Ivalka's magic, they successfully cleared a path forward. Ivalka, from now on just use the first phase of the magic. Lower the power of your flames to cover a larger area. Ivalka's release of magic required a certain amount of chanting time, so they had to defend for over 20 seconds against the goblin attacks. After a moment of fighting, a fierce flame burst into the sky, instantly annihilating the goblins in front of them. They took this opportunity to rush toward the dam. Despite the high temperature of the flames, they could still endure it thanks to their armor. They were glad that Ivalka had joined their team. At the same time, another wave of the goblin army launched an attack. Because of the rain, the flames were quickly extinguished. The man signaled Ivalka to release her skill again, followed by another 20 seconds of attack and defense battle. With the countdown ending, a fire tornado swept up, instantly routing the goblin army. Let's use the flames as a shield and continue forward. We must break through to the dam. In the distance, an endless horde of goblins was slowly advancing towards them. Facing such a fierce monster army, even Ivalka, a 3-star hero, felt powerless. Despite possessing very powerful fire magic, these goblins were not afraid at all. Just now, the endless horde of goblins approached again. The Goblin King, slowly advancing towards them, was eagerly drawing his sword. Meanwhile, a fierce battle ensued. The goblins suddenly attacked. The man dodged to the side and then slashed one down. However, the man was very surprised. The goblins' attack pattern had changed. Even faced with such fierce fire magic, they still charged forward without hesitation. Why is this happening? At that moment, the man seemed to notice something. It seems to be because of that guy. Because of the delay in Ivalka's magic, the goblins desperately launched an attack. Damn, he has seen through our plans. That guy is smarter than the average goblin. Jenna and Aaron could not hold on much longer, as the oxygen around them was quickly depleting. The man made a decision. Suddenly, a figure flashed by, and the man instantly cleared a path. Everyone, get over here. I'm only going to say this once, so make sure you listen clearly. There's only one chance. What are you talking about? We need to kill the monster wearing the mask. Meanwhile, another wave of monsters attacked. The man's team fought valiantly. Ivalka, a tremendously fierce flame rushed towards the enemy, instantly piercing through the monster army. As the monsters were stunned, the flame exploded violently among them. This is the second phase of fire magic, explosion. This scene left the monsters utterly shocked. Jenna took this opportunity to shoot an arrow, directly piercing the Goblin King's eye. Meanwhile, Ivalka collapsed to the ground from exhaustion of her magical power. The man quickly picked her up, thinking to himself, even such powerful magic can't eliminate all the monsters. If they continue to attack us, we will surely be annihilated. However, their ultimate target was not us, but the castle. But with their leader killed, what would the monsters do? The next second, the monster army headed straight for the castle. It looks like they've chosen to attack the castle. The scene shifted, and they finally crossed the monster army and arrived at the dam. The reason we're still alive is because we killed that monster. If he were still alive, we would surely be the ones dead. They used healing potions to restore their strength. At this time, the northern city gate was facing a breakthrough, and Adis's team was desperately defending. However, we also need to start our mission. Just then, a group of goblins was slowly approaching. Damn, leave us alone. Everyone, prepare for battle. What's going on? It seems this time, they've brought a giant with them. Just now, the monster army was slowly approaching them. The man began assigning tasks. Ivalka was to use fire to block their advance, while Aaron was responsible for protecting Ivalka. Meanwhile, the monster army launched a fierce attack. The beast swung its hammer, aiming a heavy blow at the man. If this strike hit, he would be killed instantly. The only way to face such a fierce attack was to slowly wear down the beast's strength. At that moment, a wall of fire was erected around them. Facing the giant beast's massive hand, the man parried with his sword, while Jenna took the opportunity to shoot several arrows. Although all hit the beast, they did no damage. The man signaled Jenna not to waste arrows, as they needed to find the monster's weak point to fight it effectively. Did this giant really have a weak point? At the same time, another giant was rushing towards them. The current situation was very bleak. Aaron was busy protecting Ivalka, and now another beast had appeared. If they continued to delay, they would face even greater risks. Just then, an attack from the monster almost caught the man off guard, nearly costing him his life. Next, the man instantly teleported to the top of the beast's head, then thrust his long sword into its neck. However, because the stab was too shallow, it did not inflict effective damage. The man raised his shield and leaped towards the beast, smashing it. The next second, the long sword had pierced through the beast. Following that, the man swung his sword to slay it. However, another beast was already approaching them. Jenna shot arrows trying to stop it, but to no effect. Seeing the giant beast's foot about to crush Ivalka, at that moment, the monster unexpectedly ran past her. Quickly, the man realized the creature's target was the dam. so they used all their might to attack it. After a fierce onslaught, the giant finally fell into the river. Just as the man thought it was all over, suddenly a huge hand emerged from the river, followed by a punch that shattered the dam on the spot. At this time, Eren had already dealt with all the goblins and asked the man what they should do next, but the man merely said lightly, "We have failed." The dam, which the man was desperately protecting, was shattered by the beast with a single punch. Next, death awaited them. If our guess is correct, the supporting soldiers from the other side should have come through the dam to this city, but now that the dam has been destroyed, they can't cross this river. How can they possibly conquer the remaining monsters with these remaining forces? When the Bridge of Life was destroyed by the monsters, their hopes seemed to be shattered as well. Let's go back. We need to make a second plan. Wait here, Ivalka signaled. The next moment, Ivalka chanted a spell, and a huge boulder floated up from the ground. Ivalka made a controlling gesture, moving the boulder, its trajectory precise and unwavering. The stone struck the gap with immense force, embedding itself into the damaged area and effectively bridging the chasm. The once broken bridge was now whole again, thanks to Ivalka's intervention. You could do this? Of course, because telekinesis is a very basic of magic. If it weren't for you, we would definitely have died here. Meanwhile, another wave of goblin armies attacked, and they fought desperately. However, the battle on the 10th floor had been going on for a long time, but the reinforcements had still not appeared. Could the man's speculation have been wrong? Perhaps there were no reinforcements from the beginning? At this moment, Ivalka was replenishing her magic power. A goblin spotted an opening and lunged forward. Just in the nick of time, a soldier suddenly arrived and instantly killed the goblin. The goblins were immediately thrown into disarray as the reinforcements had arrived. The next second, the goblin army launched an attack. The captain of the soldiers raised his longsword high and shouted, "Soldiers, show your might. Cross the river." Instantly, countless soldiers surged from all directions onto the battlefield. Shortly thereafter, a prompt came from the front. Allied NPCS Iron Lion Cavalry joins the battle. Meanwhile, the man signaled Jenna to come for a rendezvous. The battalion had about 500 soldiers. Although they were not numerically superior, the man felt distinctly that these soldiers were entirely different from the city's defense guards. We can definitely win this battle. Moments later, the battle intensified. 458 soldiers of the Iron Wire Battalion remained, and the battle had already ended. To keep up with the battalion, they had to learn to ride horses. Although players couldn't directly intervene in the battle, they could influence the outcome by teaching hero support skills. These skill books were available in the combat store. Thus, the man learned the beginner equestrianism skill. Although he couldn't directly learn combat-related skills, he could master auxiliary skills like horse riding. Now we have more troops. They followed the battalion together. It's time to strike back. Just now, the man had gained a large number of troops, and next, they would sound the horn for a counterattack. Before the city gates were breached, the goblins gathering in the eastern part of the city posed no significant threat. Their greatest threat came from the northern part of the city, as it was already surrounded by siege towers. The troop was aware of this, so they were moving north, but the man quickly realized that things were not as simple as they seemed. Thus, he signaled the troop to move to the sides to avoid the battle. Eren was very puzzled by this, because shouldn't they be protecting the northern part of the city now? Do you really think it's over? We should head to the northern forest. As the troop moved quickly, they headed towards their new target. Just as the man had guessed, a group of goblin cavalry was hiding in the forest, waiting for an opportunity to act. Meanwhile, a large monster launched an attack on the city. If this cavalry joined the battle, the consequences would be unimaginable. The man asked how Ivalka was doing. She said she could still use magic, but its power would be greatly reduced. It was more important to focus on the range rather than power. Next, they would pass through the northern forest, and Ivalka's task was to set the entire forest on fire. On the other hand, the northern part of the city was already engulfed in battle smoke, with only Adis's team holding on. Just then, the Iron Lion Cavalry arrived in time, drums and bugles sounding in unison, and the battle raged on, catching the goblin army off guard. Adis also realized that they were the long-awaited reinforcements, and they just needed to hold on a bit longer. Meanwhile, as Ivalka chanted, a ferocious flame instantly devoured the entire forest. With this, Ivalka completed her task. Although this would burn down the entire forest, it was better that way, as it was the goblins' habitat. On the other side, the city's defense battle was still ongoing. Although many city guards were sacrificed, fortunately, the later joined Iron Lion Cavalry was of high quality and possessed very strong capabilities. Even facing an overwhelming numerical advantage, they fought without falling behind. Eventually, the troop won the battle, which also meant they had completed their mission. Although the mission was very challenging, fortunately, no heroes died. Just when everyone was feeling happy, Jenna felt very puzzled. Why haven't we been teleported back now that the mission is complete? In an instant, the man's eyes widened as he realized something was amiss. They had eliminated all the monsters, helped the reinforcements cross the dam, and wiped out the ambush in the northern forest, ultimately achieving victory. But why hadn't the settlement information popped up? Just as the man was puzzled, space suddenly came to a halt, and all characters froze in place. At that moment, a voice prompted the man to look behind. He turned around and saw a black figure starkly appearing before him. It's the level 900 999 shadow. Years ago, a game bug dragged the man into the game world, and now, facing his enemies, he was particularly incensed. What kind of sparks will fly between them now? The next second, all the experiences before the man entered the game flashed before his eyes. It's you! Just then, the man recognized that the black figure before him was the very culprit who had dragged him into the game world. The shadows level 999 made the man shiver, knowing the maximum level for heroes below 7 stars is 99, yet the level of the shadow before him was as high as 999. Soon after, the man noticed another character beside the shadow. The level 15 dark disciple, with a sinister smile, stared at the man. "I will be waiting for you." He turned and disappeared from the man's view. Meanwhile, the game world re-established its network connection. Just as everyone looked puzzled, "Run back to the city." He then dashed non-stop towards the castle. The appearance of the dark disciple made the man instantly feel that things were far from over. At that moment, the soldiers behind him began to mutate, throwing everything into chaos. The man could only urge everyone to get back to the city quickly, as he recognized these as the legendary reanimated dead. They turned eligible corpses into zombies, and if their brains were not destroyed, their assault could not be stopped. But these were not monsters that should be appearing on the 10th floor. With Adis's help, they successfully escaped back to the city. The man quickly set down Ivalka and instructed them to meet up with Adis and together protect the statue of the goddess in the city center. "Please hold on until I return." "But we can't beat those kinds of monsters. You need to pull yourself together. Do you want to become food for those monsters?" Inspired, Aaron immediately perked up. Facing Jenna and Ivalka's concerns, the man firmly assured them that he would return. With the gates slowly closing, a tense battle was about to unfold again. He would have to traverse through the wave of monsters alone. Although these monsters were very disgusting, defeating them was still easy as long as their brains were chopped off. But just then, a giant beast swung its hammer, violently smashing towards the city gates. Didn't expect even these kinds of monsters to be revived. At this rate, the gates won't hold for long. Meanwhile, monsters swarmed towards him from all around. Just in the nick of time, 2 arrows suddenly shot forth, instantly killing them. It turned out to be Jenna helping the man from not far away. On the other side, the city gates were forcefully opened under the fierce attack of the monsters, and an endless slaughter awaited them. I didn't expect the gates to be opened so quickly, but he knew in his heart that everything should end once the dark disciple was eliminated. He disappeared into a forest in flames. "So, I'll kill you." Just now, the man was heading towards that forest. There are 2 reasons these monsters act. First, to destroy the statue of the goddess, and second, they have a strong aggressiveness towards living characters. As powerful as they were in life, they are equally formidable in death. These damned creatures. Unexpectedly, Adis's leadership proved much better than expected. Although the current situation is not optimistic, their most urgent task is to protect the statue of the goddess. If the city walls are breached by the monsters, they will need to set up barricades to stop the monsters' advance. With Jenna and Aaron defending, they should be able to buy some time. Meanwhile, the citizens inside the city were being attacked by monsters. On the other side, the man had already arrived in the forest, and his task now was to kill the dark disciple as quickly as possible. He slowly walked deeper into the forest, but the next second, 2 monsters charged at him head-on. He quickly drew his sword and instantly killed them. Afterward, he drank a healing potion and then moved to the edge of the area, knowing that his adversary was right there. At that moment, news came that 2 of his teammates were in a state of fear. Teammate Macon died, and even Adis was in a bleeding state. Meanwhile, an attack flew towards the man, and he immediately blocked it with his shield. However, the attack shattered the shield and pierced through his arm. It seemed that the dark disciple's melee skills were weak, but he was still a monster that would appear on higher floors, making him stronger than the man. At the same time, multiple attacks came at him, and the man fought back with his sword, but due to the overwhelming number, he was pierced through his body. If not for his strong defensive abilities, he might have already died from these injuries. He was in a bleeding state, and if things continued like this, he was certain to die. Moreover, he had to kill the dark disciple before all his teammates were wiped out. At that moment, the dark disciple suddenly expressed a desire to talk properly with the man because he sensed that the man was different from them. The next second, the man threw his long sword towards the source of the voice, piercing the dark disciple's chest. Facing the enemy's attack, the man instantly entered a berserk state, but in the next second, his arm was magically cut off. He could only endure the severe physical pain and swung his dagger at the enemy. Despite his body being pierced by the enemy's multiple spells, he did not retreat. With a high-pitched shout, the man's dagger slit the enemy's throat, killing him on the spot. However, at that moment, the man finally collapsed from exhaustion. But why hasn't the settlement information appeared yet? Could the battle still not be over? If so, they were all doomed. It seemed that he would die here before the statue of the goddess was destroyed. As the news of Shern's death came, the man felt that he was about to die here without any clear reason. He felt very sorry for his teammates because he had failed to meet their expectations and had not successfully led them through the 10th floor. "I was dragged to an unknown place, and after all that exhausting work, I'm gonna die." In the fierce battle, the man desperately killed the dark disciple, but this did not change the situation. The screams of his teammates still echoed, followed, and he too was at his final moment, completely exhausted. But just then, the statue of the goddess suddenly emitted a golden light. At this moment, the long-awaited settlement information finally arrived, followed by a blue light that appeared and then teleported them back to the town. A prompt appeared next. There's a hero amongst the master's heroes awaiting a promotion. Combine the promotion stones together once you have all the ingredients to find the forgotten piece of memory. Congratulations on clearing the 10th floor, Mazador. The lobby's name will be changed to Tonia. Just now, the man slowly opened his eyes and realized that he had survived. Moments later, the man found Aaron, who looked worried and distressed. Why do you look like this? Aaron replied that he was pondering the reasons for their argument. Since the man had left, a tide of corpses had flooded into the town, and many humans had fallen before him. Only then did the man realize that Aaron was under tremendous pressure. Will you still have that look on your face tomorrow? Aaron denied his assumption and then slowly left the area. The scene shifts, and now they are enjoying the joy of surviving the ordeal. In the man's eyes, everyone's mood was relatively stable, except that Daika needed some time to recover. Meanwhile, to promote the man's level, the master upgraded the synthesis facility. Next, they would combine all attribute stones into a lesser promotion stone. With a burst of colorful light emerging, Isol appeared in front of the man with the promotion stone and encouraged him, move forward towards the 7-star level like this. Although the man had no certainty about this, Isol believed that he was the only one who could reach the 7-star level. If that were the case, then Cirrus should have reached the 7-star level long ago. Despite using every means at his disposal, he had never acquired a 7-star hero. Afterwards, the man went to the synthesis facility for promotion. As soon as he entered here, he would become a 2-star hero. This was one of the areas masters could not see. After placing the materials and the hero in the advancement chamber, the promotion began, and even the masters were unclear about what would happen next. What exactly will happen here? He placed the promotion stone on the pedestal, and immediately, a blinding beam of light shot up into the sky. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself in an unfamiliar setting. When he went on alert, he discovered that there was an impassable barrier in front of him. He heard a woman's voice and learned that a child named Han Islet was originally supposed to come here in his place. But due to lack of understanding of the situation, the man decided to leave this place. However, everything in front of him was shocking. This was clearly a waiting room, yet there was not a single building or facility to be seen. At the same time, a space-time rift slowly opened, and then Isol appeared. But the man quickly realized that she was much smaller than the usual Isol. Following the direction pointed by the fairy, he saw the prompt Advent Dungeon. Prove your might. Difficulty: extremely. At this point, the man realized something was amiss. Wasn't the Advent Dungeon a new event that went live that day? Alarms sounded, and he soon fell into a state of fear. Even the man couldn't grasp what exactly was happening. Under the immense pressure, the man instantly entered a berserk state to defend himself. After catching his breath for a moment, a voice came through. Finally, we meet. Standing before him was the level 999 Shadow. How are you here? Although enemies are particularly striking when they meet, the Shadow's high level of 999 made the man step back. This guy could eliminate 5-star and 6-star heroes in just 10 seconds, and then taunted the man about why he didn't attack him. However, the man remained rational, knowing that with his current strength, he couldn't possibly contend with the Shadow. If he didn't have good self-control, he might have been annihilated by the Shadow already. Do heroes always encounter you when they advance in level? The Shadow denied this, because the man was a special existence. Moreover, the Shadow brought a beautiful gift for the man. A figure slowly walked into the man's view. Who exactly are you? Just now, another figure slowly appeared before the man, giving him a strangely familiar feeling, because she looked very similar to Isol. However, the woman seemed unsure how to introduce herself. Could Isol also look like this in the future? The man didn't care who she really was, only knowing she was a damned person. However, this comment greatly displeased the woman, who then corrected the man's mistake. It's not that she looks like Isol, but that Isol looks like her. Isol is merely her 479th copy. She threw a business card at the man, which revealed she was actually the boss of Mobius. At this moment, feeling mocked, the man bluntly asked her, "Are you the one who brought me to this world?" But she stated that it was not her intention, as she had not anticipated that the man would be summoned into Mobius. The current situation was entirely an accident. However, the man was unwilling to take her word for it and threatened to make her let him leave this place. The woman was not afraid of a mere 1-star hero. Although you are a 1-star hero, you are an entity that grows stronger with time. If that's the case, then killing you here would be the best option. Immediately, an attack rushed towards the man, piercing his armor and stopping just in front of his chest. It turned out this was merely the woman's way of testing him. However, her next words made the man shiver. "I am a loyal fan of Loki, and I was extremely shocked by your performance in the raid copies. I came here to tell you the truth about this world." But she was also curious about what Loki thought of the game's storyline. In her view, masters only focused on content and didn't care about the storyline. She felt the same. In her eyes, there was no such thing as a worldview here. Masters simply didn't care whether this world truly existed or not. She slowly snapped her fingers, and the scenery behind her changed immediately. This is the Heim Peninsula of Taenir. Although it's the city you saw on the 10th floor, but it is now in this state. Before the man man's eyes unfolded the ruins of cities. This was the current state of all regions in Tayanir. Do you think Niflheim would be any different? All continents connected to Mobius would end up like this. Over 100 million planets were almost simultaneously destroyed. This world was doomed to annihilation from the start, and everything will ultimately vanish. However, the characters in this world hope for a different ending. For that, they only need to do one very simple thing, that is to bring humans from outside the world here, then rewrite the storyline and direction of this world. Because outsiders are beings from a higher dimension, just observing can change the future's course. This is also why Loki was brought into the game world. Hearing this, the man gave a derisive smile. So what's the point of telling me all this? She expressed a desire to save the world together with the man. But before she could finish speaking, she was hit in the head by a flying knife thrown by the man. Because he did not believe what she said, he now just wanted to leave this place as quickly as possible. Having been dragged into this world and subjected to endless torment, now she sought cooperation, which was utterly ludicrous to him. Although the man very much wanted to kill her, their levels were too different at the moment. Weighing the pros and cons, the man chose to leave as quickly as possible. However, the woman refused because she had expended a great deal of effort to bring him here. She explained why she was so optimistic about Loki. Because you have achieved what other masters could not. Subsequently, a familiar phrase appeared before the man. This was a notification from the tutorial. Loki was the only human who understood this phrase and was unique among hundreds of millions of masters. The scene behind him changed again. This is the setting of floor 80. Among 100 million players, only Loki and 4 others were allowed to challenge this place. It was the most difficult level. Is this what you want to show me? The woman confirmed this and prepared a chair for him. Please, have a seat. She was very curious about how the man would feel watching himself clear the level in person. Floor 80 is different from previous floors. It doesn't explicitly tell you the type of mission, as the tasks appear randomly. While luck does play a role in the difficulty of the challenge, the woman was clearly fascinated by this memory. But most players end up failing this floor, which is why floor 80 was called the Wall of Tears. Yet the man clearly remembered the strategy for clearing floor 80. So what was the point in watching this recording? Just keep watching and you'll find out. In the man's memory, when he tackled floor 80, aside from the main team, almost all the other teams were wiped out. It was a place no living creature could survive, home to countless monsters, like a living hell. The man recognized immediately that these were Fragment series monsters, but what the woman said next made the man shudder. In the game, the difficulty varies between accounts, and even the summoning probabilities are different. Loki never managed to summon a 5-star hero from start to finish, and this was not a mere coincidence. It's not that Loki was unlucky, it's because there were no heroes left in Niflheim. Even the difficulty is the same. The Niflheim account is one of the few internally judged to deserve an S-grade rating, but I am curious how Loki managed to reach floor 88. At the same time, a blue light appeared, and the strongest hero of Niflheim slowly entered the scene. In a moment, the top 5 strongest heroes gathered together. Next, it would be their time to fight valiantly. Loki was seen slowly moving the hero, placing them in the appropriate positions. At this moment, the woman felt that Loki's tactics were very interesting. Although the process seemed very complex, the goal was quite straightforward: to cut off the enemy's resource supply before launching a raid. Next, just watch their actions closely and see what kind of presence you represent to them, which is also why Loki was truly unique. Meanwhile, the heroes who received the mission began their battle preparations. The mission must succeed, not fail, not just for us, but for Loki. Then came the moment for the heroes to shine. The Arrow of Kings, Nihaka Gastfell; the Spear of Kings, Mutant Nidelk; the Sword of Kings, Lydigian; the Eye of Kings, Urnith Sid; the Flame of Kings, Ceres Aganthium. With the start of the mission, a burst of fire appeared, instantly annihilating all the monsters. This was the strength of the strongest heroes. It seems they were truly loyal to Loki. These heroes were known in the game as the strongest 6-star heroes. Apart from 7-star ones, no one could contend with them. However, the most important aspect was not their abilities, but how they viewed their master. The heroes realized during their tower climbs that players only treated them as pets to be commanded. But you were different. You are truly regarded as a master. Loki, he is the king of Niflheim, and to this day, that status has not changed. The heroes of Niflheim are still searching for the man's whereabouts, but only the woman knows where Loki is. From this, it's clear that Loki holds a very high status in the hearts of the heroes of Niflheim. Loki plays the game in a very unique way. He has never used the synthesis function. Typically, masters use synthesis to feed disobedient heroes as materials to higher level heroes. Even if a low-star hero has potential, masters would feed them to higher star heroes without a second thought. Loki has never received a 5-star hero, and even Ceres is only a 4-star hero. Others have advised him that his account is a failure, but even so, Loki has not chosen to give up because he is accustomed to unfairness. Loki stated that it's not that he has never used the synthesis function, just that he rarely does. Thus, it's almost the same as not using it at all. In other respects, it's the same. Other masters treat heroes like toys, discarding them when bored, but Loki doesn't operate that way. As long as a hero shows potential, even if they are of a low level, he won't give up on them easily. He rewards heroes who contribute and punishes those who do not. You know that the heroes here are all humans. Although she doesn't know how the man discovered this, Loki's approach to treating heroes is clearly different from other masters. Just now, the woman reached a conclusion that Loki knows everything here. All the heroes are humans. In fact, these game characters are so realistic it's hard to believe they were created by programming. Since each person has their own unique way of cultivation, Loki still can't believe they could be real, living humans. But is this why she likes the man? The woman confirmed this, even saying she had wanted to have a talk with him for a long time, but unfortunately, he was still on Earth at that time. That's really too bad, because I would have put you 6 feet under had I met you on Earth. However, the man had already grown to deeply despise the woman before him. Whether it was Tanir or Niflheim, he believed they had nothing to do with him. He was just an ordinary person from Earth. The woman insisted on imposing her predicament upon him. Loki knew well that the woman had summoned him here for reasons far beyond simply climbing a high tower. Initially, when Loki was about to lead the Niflheim team to conquer Floor 90, he was dragged into this game world. So, the man definitely would not agree to cooperate with her. He just wanted the woman to completely disappear from his presence. Faced with Loki's firm rejection, the woman had no choice but to give up on cooperation. However, she hoped that the man could make it alive to where she was. The man was very curious if the dark disciple that appeared on Floor 10 was her doing. The woman confirmed this, but stated that after Floor 15, she would no longer interfere, as Tanir would definitely bring huge trouble to Loki. Its difficulty is consistent with the Niflheim. Both are the legendary S grade. No matter how well Loki performs, the chance of a master's failure is at least 90%, but with my help, the outcome would be completely different. The woman stated that if Loki could reach the top, she would send him back to Earth and gift him half of the shares of Mobius. But this is her conclusion. Faced with the doomed region of Tanir, only the man has the hope of turning the situation around. What choice will he make? However, the man was not interested at all, as he never trusted the woman before him. Before she could finish speaking, the man struck, hitting the woman with a dagger on the spot. He made it clear that when he reached the top, all the truths would come to light, and he did not need the woman's help. That was his answer. Nevertheless, the woman was unfazed by Loki's actions and instead offered him a piece of advice. The real prologue of Pick Me Up starts when you begin to climb the tower. Tanir, a place where humans and other races coexist, will face a massive invasion of monsters on this thriving land. The reason Pick Me Up's difficulty is so high is because it is fundamentally a situation with almost no chance of victory. But if it's Loki, there still exists a chance to change this situation. If Loki wants to save the world, he must climb this high tower. All heroes will share the ordeal with him, and the future of the world lies in the hands of the masters and Loki. Powerful enemies will come one after another. Climb the tower, Loki. We will be waiting for your arrival. Meanwhile, a congratulatory message came from ahead. The hero's forgotten memories awaken. Han is now a 2-star hero with improved levels and skills. It seems the promotion process has finally ended. Faced with Aaron's inquiry, the man simply told him that he would go through these experiences too. But has anything happened recently? Aaron indicated that nothing special had occurred. At that moment, the man realized that Aaron's reason for wanting to go back was his sister Nina, and the man's goal had never changed, which was to climb the tower and return to Earth. If there was any other thought, it was to make that woman pay a painful price. Moments later, an apology prompt came from ahead. Due to a game network crash, the officials made some compensation to the players. The specific compensation was also listed. At the same time, Isol congratulated Loki on advancing to a 2-star hero, but the man had no reaction because he had learned Isol's true identity. Unexpectedly, she was the CEO of Mobius. Although all this was very shocking to the man, knowing these things did nothing to help. Subsequently, the man expressed his inner thoughts. He wanted to climb the tower and return to Earth. For this, he needed Isol's help. Isol promptly agreed to his request and pulled out a gift coupon to give to him. Although the coupon could be exchanged for various items and equipment, the man did not care about it because he knew the value of such coupons could not buy anything good. Isol converted the coupon into a statue of a warhorse, stating it was a reward from the masters, but the man threw it away without hesitation. If the reward is given to only one hero, the other heroes will complain. Moreover, each hero has their own unique taste. The scene shifts, and a space-time rift slowly opens. The man's greatest concern is the internal enemy. This enemy, known as Master Ivalka, due to repetitive training and her experiences on Floor 10, is exhausted both physically and mentally. In this condition, it is impossible to proceed to Floor 11. However, what happens next perplexes the man. Master is preparing to challenge Floor 11, mistakenly believing that the success of clearing Floor 10 was entirely their own doing, hence becoming somewhat complacent. The man then signals Jenna and others to prepare, as they are about to face a new challenge. Under these circumstances, attempting to clear Floor 11 is clearly the wrong decision. The man questions internally, can I really reach Floor 100 with this kind of master? The scene shifts again, and everyone arrives at a graveyard, facing a skeleton army. They quickly prepare for battle. Pick Me Up is called a luck-based online game largely because of its gacha mechanics. The stronger the heroes drawn, the smoother the journey up the tower. However, the man's situation is different. The master fed a 4-star hero to the man, and now only one of the 5 3-star heroes remains. It's not really correct to say the players are unlucky. At the start of the tower climb, the master continually expand facilities, train heroes, and craft items, climbing step by step according to the man's strategies. But everything changed after floor 5. After the man struggled to complete the mission, the situation evolved. Without the resources to nurture heroes, the master made 5 paid gacha pulls. Even without any training, the master threw a member into floor 10, and despite repeatedly making basic mistakes, credited all the heroes' achievements to their own gameplay. Meanwhile, after completing the mission, the man finally leveled up, reaching level 2, and his various attributes were also enhanced. The scene shifts, and now the man is conversing with Isol. He is very curious about the true identity of Isol's prototype. Although in principle Isol cannot disclose this information, under the man's persistent questioning, Isol decides to answer his question. Isol explains that the board has different identities in each world. If she must specify one, in Tayanir, she exists as a being named Tel. Hence, she must also have a presence in Nibelheim. After clearing floor 10, names for the waiting rooms are given and different for each master, and this rest room is known as the existence of Tayanir. The man's waiting room is Nibelheim. If Tel's explanation is correct, it means that every master holds the fate of a world in their hands. So what is Mobius? It's just the name of our company. But the man disagrees with her statement. He believes Mobius is the entity that connects all worlds, which is why each player has different missions, and there are no duplicate heroes. At this moment, he roughly estimates the woman's true identity, but he can't help but wonder, is the master an ordinary human? Of course, only Earthlings can become masters, but the man said that he wasn't looking to find out about that, but instead wanted to ask, would Tel manipulate masters? Hearing this, Isol appeared extremely shocked, and said she would go inquire about it. After a moment, she came back to tell the man not to worry because Tel had not played any tricks on this master. The scene shifts, and the man learns that the current game is not subject to any external interference. This confirms his suspicion that master mistakenly believed the clearing of levels is solely his own doing, becoming extremely arrogant. If this attitude continues, it will definitely lead to serious problems. To prepare for unexpected situations that might occur in the future, they must train to become stronger. While things haven't yet worsened, the man must take the right steps to restore the master's sanity. To resolve this issue, masters need to understand that they cannot rely entirely on heroes, and that hero is Loki. The scene shifts again, and everyone prepares to re-enter the dungeon for another raid. With the space-time rift slowly opening, this time, they are planning to tackle floor 12. However, the man immediately refuses, which scares Isol beside him. Are you serious? At the same time, Isol is trying hard to dissuade the man, telling him it's very dangerous. Isn't it dangerous to raid the dungeon recklessly? Although heroes can refuse the dungeon, synthesis is inevitable. However, the man has made his stance clear. As for the others, they must make their own choices. Upon hearing this, everyone expressed their refusal. What should be done next? It all depends on the master's reaction now. Everyone in the city is watched by these master, and their every move must be approved by them. Yet now, the man refuses the orders from the master. The first team also refused his command. He would have known this could happen had he watched the tutorial, but clearly, he did not watch it carefully. Meanwhile, Isol is summoning Adis and others, looking surprised. She had thought the first team would take on the challenge, but the man indicated his refusal of the master's order. Although defying the master's command is dangerous, he must do so to survive. Blindly following the master's commands would surely lead to destruction. Adis chose to obey the master's commands because she wants to enhance her strength by clearing the floors, and she doesn't want to be caught by the master for synthesis. They headed straight for the floor dungeon. Subsequently, the man gave some advice to Jenna and others. If he were caught by the master for synthesis because of this, they would need to stop defying the master's orders immediately so they wouldn't die. But they indicated that there's no way the man would die, which reassured the man. At the same time, news came from the front that the second team had entered a bleeding state. It seems that floor 12 is much more difficult than 11. Soon, everyone walked out of the dungeon, battered and bruised. At this moment, Adis looked displeased, eager to find out how to refuse the master's commands. The man shared the method with her. The next second, the second team also refused the master's orders. Isol looked panicked, as she had never expected things to turn out this way. Now that both teams were unresponsive, although they refused the master's commands, they wouldn't stop training. They would freely enter the weekly dungeons, gather materials, and enhance themselves. However, Isol was very worried about this. What if the master never logged on again? That would depend on the master's choice. If the master couldn't handle even this small matter, how could they climb higher in the tower? What if he wanted to synthesize you? I would rather die painlessly than toil to death here. Although throwing him into synthesis was the most convenient and effective method, it would lead to heroes no longer trusting the master. They simply left the place. The scene shifts, and with their efforts, they obtained a lower grade fire elemental stone from the dungeon, and the man also improved through training. Unnoticed, the lower grade sword and shield technique had already advanced to level 6. The man needed more intensive training to continue improving. He then assigned a task to Ivalka, which was to master telepathy completely. However, from that day, the master never logged into the game again. Several days passed until today, when the player logged in again. At that moment, Adis thought the master had come around, but the man was sure it wasn't that simple. In this case, there was only one thing to do: gacha summoning to form a new team. With the master's summoning, 3 3-star heroes appeared out of thin air. However, they immediately exhibited strong hostility upon meeting. At this moment, a soldier nearby asked the man for help, but the next second, a casual remark from a woman instantly angered him. Just as the situation was about to escalate further, Isol appeared and promptly stopped them. The master then formed them into the third team, and they began to take on the dungeon floors. Meanwhile, the man chose to slowly walk away, knowing that those people could not come back. The scene shifts again, and while the man was resting, messages kept coming from the front just as he had anticipated. In no time, the entire third team was wiped out. The 3 3-star heroes, just summoned, were sent by the master to conquer floor 15, yet the scene before him felt eerily familiar. Subsequently, a notification of the master going offline came. Immediately after, Isol, with a face full of grievances, complained to Loki, very afraid that the master would abandon the game, because if a master does not log in for more than 6 months, their account will be forcefully deleted. But Loki was calm and collected. 6 months in reality is equivalent to 1 year and 6 months in the game, but if the lobby is not managed by a master, then Isol will have no use, meaning she would soon disappear. Loki comforted her not to worry, stating that if the master's resolve was that weak, he would have already given up. However, he was curious as to why Isol was so desperate. Could it be that she would die if the master did not climb the tower? Isol confirmed this. If the master did not climb the tower for a long time, she would lose her reason to exist. The man was startled at this point because he had been away from Niflheim for a long time, which meant he had no time to waste in such a place. The scene shifts, and the master logs in again, surprisingly for a gacha draw. Accompanied by a burst of purple light, 3 3-star heroes suddenly appeared before everyone. Unexpectedly, as soon as they appeared, they started to give orders. Thus, the man decided to teach them a lesson. But before he could finish speaking, Milken suddenly attacked the man, only to be knocked down with a punch. The master only did 3 gacha draws. Did he intend to form the third team with 2 1-star heroes and 3-star heroes? In fact, such a practice of forming teams with high and low-level heroes leads to uneven team strength. News of the master forming the third team followed, and then a space-time rift slowly opened, and in no time, everyone had completed the raid and returned here. It seems that these newcomers possessed decent strength. They knew what they needed to do. The scene shifts, and at this moment, Jenna looked worried because she feared that the appearance of those people would threaten their position, but the man assured there was no need to worry about that. Although Team 3 had no mages, their overall combination was still very good, and they were growing rapidly. Due to the master's over-reliance, they became more arrogant, even targeting mages. From their conversations, it was not hard to see that they did not care about the lives of 1-star heroes and had no concept of teamwork. Although the team was not ideal in many aspects, they still cleared floor 14. Next, they would face even harder floors, and once successful, the first team would face the fate of being synthesized. At this moment, Ivalka felt the man should do something, as those guys were quickly catching up to them, but the man appeared relaxed. We just need to wait for an opportunity. However, he was curious if Ivalka had fully mastered telepathy. Ivalka waved his finger lightly, and the next second, the surrounding armor floated in the air. The man laughed. It seems you've made significant progress. In comparison, the master is simply not ambitious. With the rise in floors, there should have been upgrades to the facilities in the waiting room, but the master seemed to have no intention of doing so. Gradually, everyone's attention focused on the third team. Also, because of the master's fondness for this team, they became even more unrestrained. If they were allowed to raid floor 15, the consequences would be unimaginable. The scene shifts, and today they were going to raid floor 15, everyone watching anxiously, accompanied by the slow opening of the space-time rift. At that moment, Milken dropped a harsh line. When I return, it will be the day that man is caught for synthesis. Meanwhile, Aaron was very curious about what would happen if they cleared floor 15. Then we'll need to start obeying the master's commands, or be used as materials for synthesis. They believed it was still possible to clear floor 15, as unexpected things always happen. If they successfully return, then we must unconditionally obey the master's commands. Of course, by then the man might have already been captured for synthesis. Whether they succeed or not, this would be a thrilling gamble. The master gifted 2 horse statues to Loki, expressing his fondness for Loki the hero. However, he did not know that Loki had everything under control. Previously, watching the third team head to floor 15, everyone looked solemn, waiting for the results. Just then, news came from the front that the third team was completely wiped out. In just an instant, the third team met with disaster. At this time, the man couldn't help but frown. It seems that floor 15 must be a special mission. At the same time, the town experienced a severe shake, followed by a notification of the master going offline. At that moment, Isol slowly spoke up, revealing that the master had thrown away their phone. Subsequently, the man signaled everyone to leave. It seemed they had been wiped out without obtaining any clues, and their sacrifice was meaningless. Since then, the master never logged into the game again. However, they still did not give up training, but Isol appeared very worried, hoping Loki would do something. But as a hero, all the man could do was continue to train. Due to the master's inaction, many one-star heroes began to slack off. According to calculations, only 3 days have passed in real life. While the two were conversing, the master logged into the game again, but only to take screenshots, and then quickly logged out. It seemed the master did nothing significant online. Perhaps he intends to give up the game now, but the man held a different view because he had just taken a screenshot. Subsequently, the man asked Isol what her interest was, and she replied that it was surfing the internet. If so, that means Isol can access the internet here. She confirmed this. The man needed Isol's help next. The scene shifts. At this moment, Isol looked shocked because the man actually intended to surf the internet here. Interfering with another dimension is punishable, and actions like replying on forums would greatly shorten their stay time. It seemed very difficult, and Isol affirmed this. However, to achieve his goal, the man had to surf the internet here. After a moment of internal struggle, Isol finally made up her mind, determined to do everything she could for Loki. With her shout, a virtual computer suddenly appeared before the man. She urged Loki to act quickly, as she couldn't sustain it for long. It had been a long time since Loki last logged into the game forum. After a moment of searching, the man finally found his target, a help post from the master. Loki was very curious about the character illustrations. Who drew these? Meanwhile, the forum's comment section was filled with mockery. Even though they are enemies, did you still send them to one place? They could hardly believe that such a naive player could reach floor 14. At this moment, Isol was clearly nearing her limit, so Loki quickly typed on the keyboard, then sent his years of competition records and strategies to the master, reminding him to read the post completely. Just then, Isol finally collapsed from exhaustion. However, the man had achieved his goal, and what remained was to see how the master would respond. At this moment, Isol's eyes shone. Could that be the legendary Book of Heaven? It was rumored that the strategies published on the forum today are incomplete, and the complete strategies are held in Loki's hands. Loki acknowledged her statement, but she was only half right. The strategy he handed to the master didn't include everything, but it did contain all of Loki. Although he couldn't guarantee the master would understand everything, if the master could assimilate this knowledge, things would become very interesting. The next day, the master logged into the game again. The man had been waiting for a long time. The master once again gifted a horse statue to Loki, but he was unaware that this was just Loki's test, because he had secretly modified the guide at the end to include gifting the horse statue to a favorite hero more than twice. Clearly, the master had read the guide to the end. If the master truly wants to reach the top, he must become an existence like the man. Otherwise, he won't be able to control Loki. Although he may not have understood all the strategies, it was evident he was evolving. If he truly has the will, I will make him the greatest master. But Isol was very afraid, worried that the master hadn't made any changes at all. But the man believed that wouldn't be the case. He was curious when the next game update would be, and then Isol explained it. It depends on the speed of collecting the interference power. Interference power is something Mobius uses to disrupt causality and rules. It is collected when the master is online. Every time a floor is cleared, the interference power increases, and the gems are the carriers of this interference power, containing infinite creative force. However, Loki clearly has no interest in this, as they have rested for a long time and are about to resume fighting. However, if they want to clear floor 15, they need a team of more than 5 people. But Loki says not to worry, and then he sends a team invitation to Adis. Adis is very curious about this. Has Loki changed his opinion of the master? After a moment of thought, Adis decides to join the team. Next, they will clear floor 15 as quickly as possible. The floor slowly opens, followed by a flash of blue light, revealing floor 8. However, this provides a good opportunity to test their training results. Facing the oncoming horde of monsters, Ivalka lightly raises her right hand, and in the next second, all the land flips over in an instant. Following this, Jenna fires several arrows, the powerful force instantly killing many goblins. At the same time, Ivalka slowly releases magic, and in the next second, a fierce flame instantly sweeps through the entire monster horde. It seems that Ivalka has improved significantly. Originally, a 40-minute incantation time is now completed in just 10 seconds. In no time, they complete this raid. Although Adis is still not used to being in the team, given her intelligence, she should adapt quickly. Subsequently, the man leads Ivalka to the laboratory, where he needs to solve problems one by one and throw them into a nearby container. After a moment of research, they earn research points, but Ivalka's research efficiency is not very high, which is entirely expected by the man, as she has no research skills. At the same time, a message comes through. The daily research time limit is 3 hours. Please arrange the hero's work time properly. Hearing that they have to research for 3 hours every day, Ivalka immediately expresses extreme dissatisfaction, as her schedule is already packed, and now she has to carve out time for research. To soothe Ivalka's emotions, the man suggests that the master buy a mink fur to gift to her. Seeing this, Ivalka immediately shows great happiness. The scene shifts, and the master's behavior gradually changes. He begins arranging the team to go to weekly dungeons to collect materials and to craft equipment in the equipment forge. More importantly, during this period, he forms the third team. It seems that the master is indeed gradually growing. Meanwhile, the man and Ivalka chat casually, and she is very curious why such a talented person as the man does not study magic. Although Ivalka alone cannot teach the man, having these books should be enough. In this world, when heroes reach the 3-star level, they can decide on a profession. If this development continues, Loki is very likely to become a warrior, but if he meets hidden conditions, he could become a magician or swordsman. However, obtaining a hidden profession does not necessarily mean strength, so the man decides to wait and see. At the same time, a bolt of lightning strikes, followed by a blue energy orb forming in the air. It seems it has started. Just before, a blue energy orb forms in the air, followed by news of successful research. The hero reaction level is increased to level 1. Immediately after, the goddess's blessing descends in the waiting room, and at the same time, a blue energy orb flies directly into Ivalka's body. There are 3 types of research technologies: hero reaction research, dungeon deepening research, and facility expansion research. Master chooses to use 30 research points to initiate hero research, then the man signals her to call up the status window. The next second, the status window appears before her, displaying all of Ivalka's current attribute values. The fundamental reason for the demise of the third team was that they couldn't see the prompt window, so they couldn't know the final conditions for completing the mission. Through hero reaction research, this problem can be well resolved. Looking at the myriad attributes displayed in the window, Ivalka finds it hard to believe. At the same time, the man signals Ivalka to follow him, as it's time to tell the others. But the next second, Eren is startled by the blue energy orb, so the man grabs him and signals not to worry. The energy orb goes directly into Eren's body. Meanwhile, Jenna appears unusually calm, so this is what he has been looking at. It seems Jenna is already accustomed to this. The scene shifts, and everyone is discussing the status window. While they are very curious about this new thing, they want to know how the man came to know about it, but the man just says he discovered it by chance, and obviously Ivalka doesn't believe him. However, since the man does not wish to elaborate further, she does not probe deeper. After all, the man's advice had indeed helped them a lot. Watching the group discussing, the man made up his mind. If they could survive to the end, he would tell everyone everything he knew, but by then, it would also be time to say goodbye. Moments later, the news about the status window became well known. Although most people could see some of the information, a very few could not, likely due to low research levels. Meanwhile, the man was starting training with Jenna. Jenna fired several arrows in succession, all of which were blocked by the man one by one. It seems this is what they call skill, able to block all of Jenna's attacks. While Jenna was stunned, the man had already moved behind her and unhesitatingly slashed with his sword. After all, if they did not increase the difficulty of training, their skill levels would not improve. Next, their training would have no rules, continuing until one of them dies in battle. They launched into an unprecedented offensive and defensive battle. Even the onlookers couldn't help but wonder, is he really just a farmer? Meanwhile, Jenna was gasping for breath, and at this moment, the man was considering whether he should train 2 people at the same time. However, Eren refused this, as he had fought and lost repeatedly, currently standing at a record of 32 losses in 32 battles. In the next second, the man suddenly attacked, but unexpectedly, a short sword appeared before his eyes. Just as the man swung his sword to block, a flash of red light appeared in Jenna's eyes, followed by her shooting 3 arrows straight at the man. Even the man found it hard to believe Jenna had learned a new skill during the battle. It seems things were getting more interesting. Meanwhile, Jenna had already planned her next line of attack, using multiple arrows to force him to dodge, then seizing the moment he was unguarded to land a fatal shot. A prompt appeared on the window. Jenna's lower archery skill reached level 6. Immediately afterward, 5 arrows flew straight at the man. It seems she is getting stronger. I won't lose this time. At this moment, Eren was having doubts. Is extreme effort really no match for innate talent? Both are 1-star heroes, but the two have vastly different growth paths. Jenna can continuously improve her skill levels in battle and awaken various abilities, while Eren is stagnant in skill improvement. No matter how hard he works, the returns are minimal. Meanwhile, Jenna shot multiple arrows at the man, though her attack was fierce, but now was not the time to use a shield, as only in extremely dangerous situations could the man make a breakthrough. What he needed to do now was not just to dodge all the arrows, but more importantly, to discern the intent behind each arrow. Just when the arrows were only 0.01 centimeters from his eyes, the man achieved a skill breakthrough. His lower sword and shield technique reached level 7, and he mastered insight. The next second, a figure flashed, and the man suddenly appeared in front of Jenna. It looks like I win this time. The scene shifts, and everyone is discussing their own skills. Compared to Eren, who has only 1 skill, Jenna, who possesses multiple skills, appears particularly outstanding. However, having more skills does not necessarily make one stronger. This greatly depends on the level and teamwork. If one has 2 incompatible skills, it could instead become a burden. Although the man's calm and rage skills are a good example, that is a special case. This also indirectly caused a decrease in his skill attack efficiency. Jenna has acquired 9 skills, truly a gifted individual. Moments later, the master synthesized a lower lower promotion stone, and it was Jenna's turn to be promoted. As the synthesis facility slowly opened, Jenna said she would be back soon, but the man was somewhat worried considering what had happened during the last promotion. However, that should be a special case. Meanwhile, news came that Jenna's promotion to 2 stars was successful. She appeared dejected. She said she had a strange dream where the forest she once lived in was engulfed in flames. The man comforted her not to worry, but he was curious. Did nothing else happen? Other than feeling as if my whole body was opened up, there were no other sensations. It seems the promotion process awakened some forgotten memories, which means these guys were previously in a state of amnesia. Only when they reach 4 stars or 5 stars will they know the truth, understand how they were summoned here, and what happened in their world. The scene shifts, and Eren also receives a promotion. Although it is unclear what memories he has awakened, it is evident that he has become more motivated than before. However, the man still advises him to rest more appropriately. Subsequently, Hans suddenly enters a rage state and launches multiple attacks on a wooden post, but he soon realizes something is wrong. Although his strength has increased, he could not concentrate all his power in one area. If he activates the rage state, gaining strength while losing the calm skill, this will lead to a decrease in skill attack efficiency. It would be ideal if it were like the synthesis of sword and shield techniques. Meanwhile, Adis finds the man. She has heard that none in the man's team come from a combat profession, so Adis is curious if the man has ever killed a human before. Because Adis's team had previously cleared floor 12, the man quickly realizes that Adis is testing his resolve. He then affirms, after all, the man has survived until now, and he is already covered in blood. So, whatever appears in the future, just treat it as a monster to be killed. But Adis is worried about the differing opinions among people like Jenna, yet the man assures that there is no need to worry, as he knows them very well. The scene shifts, and they arrive inside the dungeon. Before starting to clear floor 12, no matter what happens, we must complete the mission. Accompanied by a flash of blue light, everyone is transported to floor 12 with the mission, eliminate all enemies. Just as Jenna is about to prepare for combat, the next second, she freezes in place. A line of human soldiers appears before everyone. Unexpectedly, the monsters of floor 12 turn out to be humans. What opinions among the group diverge? What choice will Loki make? Everyone is surprised that this time the enemies turn out to be humans. However, Eren states they are not monsters and believes that communication could avoid conflict between the two sides. Even Ivalka agrees with Eren's approach. However, Jenna notices something unusual because these humans, unlike other NPCs, can see Jenna and the others. Meanwhile, Loki slowly draws the long sword from his back, and everyone else prepares for combat. At this moment, Eren is persuading Loki to stop his actions. Are you trying to stop me? Hearing this, everyone is shocked, and silence falls around them. Moments later, Loki slowly exhales. Let's do it your way. The scene shifts, and Eren slowly approaches the enemy, indicating his intention to negotiate. The other side has the same idea, but before negotiating, Eren must agree to their demand to lay down his weapons. Subsequently, Eren slowly lowers his spear, but this is met with Loki's reprimand. Are you just going to do whatever others tell you? Make them lay down their weapons too. Only then will they be qualified to negotiate. Hearing this, the enemies slowly lay down their weapons and approach. Meanwhile, a soldier whispers, from the beginning, there was an incessant voice in his mind, driving him to kill everyone in front of him. Just at this critical moment, Loki kicks his sword back into his hands, and his sword instantly pierces an enemy. Loki throws a dagger, killing another enemy on the spot. He is well aware of the survival rules here. There is no such thing as mutual concession here. Meanwhile, as Adis throws her dagger, the battle comes to an end. So, even if you were to be killed by them, would you still want to talk to them? Seeing this, Eren immediately states that he will prepare for combat. At this moment, Jenna slowly draws her bow, as she has already made her choice. The next second, several arrows pierce through the enemy's chests, and even Ivalka is releasing fire magic. At this moment, Adis is still worried about the group, afraid they won't be able to accept the situation, but obviously, her concerns are unnecessary. When Loki chooses his team members, he looks not for skills, but for mentality and the will to survive at all costs. Prepare for battle, whether it's monsters or humans. If they appear here, they will become Loki's enemies. Everyone was already prepared for battle. Suddenly, the monsters launched a fierce attack, but in the next second, the group's powerful offensive instantly routed the monsters. At the same time, a massive blaze swept across the land. Jenna shot several arrows, and Eren swung his spear. Under Loki's lead, the enemy was quickly annihilated. Although the enemy was fully armed, they lacked a unified formation. Even when faced with the enemy's pleas, Loki did not hesitate to strike them down with his sword. Adis was puzzled by this, as she had clearly killed all these enemies last time. Why would these same people appear again? Were they the same group? Their blood was dark and thick, just like hers. However, it's still too early to draw conclusions. The scene shifts. We must get used to this, because here, there is no difference between monsters and humans. Sure enough, humanoid monsters existed on floors 13 and 14, and they all shared one thing in common: hostility towards us. But this is actually better, as it allows us to kill the enemy without hesitation. However, humanoid enemies tend to cause more psychological stress than monster-type enemies. enemies. So after clearing each floor, the master would rest for a day. Unknowingly, the team had reached the level requirement to clear floor 15. Thanks to the leather pouch from the equipment workshop facility, everyone could finally carry more consumables, and Loki proceeded to distribute potions. Next, they would attempt to clear floor 15, but Loki was unclear about what kind of mission floor 15 would entail, so he specifically instructed everyone not to rely too much on themselves and to learn to adapt to situations. According to the current state attributes, Loki is equivalent to a 3-star hero. Meanwhile, a prompt came from the front. The master had used the recording function. This is a very good habit, which will help improve insight and judgment. Even if the master cannot interfere with the mission now, the situation will change as they ascend the floors. This mission has 2 points to note. First, it is a special mission. In floor 10, if the goddess statue is destroyed, it will lead to the annihilation of the entire party, and something similar might appear on floor 15. Previously, Team 3 entered floor 15 unknowingly and was annihilated. What we need to do now that we have entered is to quickly understand the specifics of the mission and ensure it does not fail. However, they can only engage in the mission for 15 minutes. If they do nothing, the mission will automatically fail and they will face death. This is the second point to note. The passage of time in the waiting room and inside the floor is different, so based on the time of Team 3's demise, they probably have 15 minutes of mission time. Accompanied by the message of entering floor 15, we must gather all information within 3 minutes and then start the mission. Then a blue light appeared, and the next second, everyone was transported to floor 15. It appears that floor 15 is also a city, and these humans are NPCs of the city. Unlike floor 10, this place seems very peaceful. At the same time, a mission prompt came from the front. Floor 15 mission type: guard, protect a certain individual. Do we have to find the person to protect among all these people?